Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Edge AI Career Livestream, Career Paths in Edge AI and Finding Your Fit in this Growing Industry, brought to you by the Edge AI Foundation and 5V Tech. I'm Luke Perrins from 5V Tech, the dedicated talent partner for the Edge AI Foundation, and I'll be moderating today's panel. We'll be covering roles in Edge AI, how to decide where you fit, where the key areas of growth are, and what progression can look like. At the end, we'll open up for questions, so please ask them as we go along. And with that, let's get started by introducing the panel. Miguel, why don't you go ahead first?
Yeah, my pleasure to get started. So my name is Miguel Aguilar. So I'm a manager and senior expert for HAI. So working in this domain for around 6 years. My background is on embedded systems. So I'm leading a team at Aptiv, taking care of deploying and optimizing neural networks at the edge. I'm happy to join the panel today.
Thank you, Miguel. Mary, how about introducing yourself?
Good morning. My name is Mary Bertrand. I am the director of the Engineering Career Development Office at Boston University, where we help students get jobs across all fields of engineering, but AI is one of the bigger ones.
Great. Thank you, Mary. Wilhelm?
Thank you, Luke. My name is Wilhelm. I work as a product owner at a startup called Embeddle, where I lead an incredible team of researchers and engineers building tools to optimize and deploy deep learning models on edge devices. And I've been in the startup world for about 5 years now. Before that, my professional career started in computer vision and deep learning research, working in the automotive industry. And over time, I've now transitioned into product leadership, and that's because I enjoy bridging research, engineering, and customer needs. And for me, that mix is exactly what makes Edge AI so exciting.
Great. Thank you. And last but not least, Sam.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sam Alatia, and I'm head of machine learning at Imagimob. So Imagimob is a subsidiary of Infineon Technologies. And my role in Imagimob is to really look at the customer base of Infineon and Imagimob, look at their application and look at how we can help customers get to production, and really doing it from a tooling perspective, from competence perspective, and looking at what does the market actually need.
Great. Thank you, Sam. And thank you all again for taking the time out to join us and share your wisdom. Thanks a lot for that. So I guess let's get started and begin with mapping out what roles actually exist in the Edge AI space today. Yeah, Miguel, would you like to maybe start with this one?
Sure, gladly. So this is actually one of the key questions we are covering today. So the way I see this is that when you look at and think about HAI, there are multiple areas that actually are interconnected. You have the area of AI/ML engineer, which basically do the development and research on AI models. And this is a huge area by its own. And there are a lot of nice innovations to make the models more and more capable. Then on the other extreme, you have the hardware, right? So you need good acceleration, powerful hardware. And when you look at the market, you see very fragmented market with different type of accelerators. And then you have this area more hardware oriented. And in between, which is the area where I work, is the HI optimization and deployment, but also compiler construction, which is the link between those amazing innovations in terms of model development and the innovations on the hardware. And it puts basically together both worlds. So this is, how I see it. And the nice thing is when you think about it, every area has different skill sets that you need. If you are more algorithm oriented, you go for the model development. If you are more hardware oriented, you go to the hardware. And in between, you might have a good balance between algorithmic understanding and also hardware in order to be able to optimize and deploy neural networks at the edge.
Thank you, Miguel. Anyone else have anything to sort of add to that?
Yeah, so since my focus is more from the application side, so I'd like to also cover the other end. So depending on different applications, you would have like different kinds of sensors that you would utilize for the machine learning. So a lot of it is around domain expertise, understanding the problem, understanding how to get data out from your edge devices and bringing them into the machine learning models. And like Miguel said, then it kind of goes into the kind of the more mainstream topics, which is like, okay, how do you train models? What kind of the best architectures? And then, of course, like, how do you actually get them running on the devices in an optimal way?
Yeah, yeah. And I guess for people that are completely new to the industry, what are the sort of typical job titles that these people would be, broken down into, would you say?
So in my company, which is really like it's run like a startup, it's we just have a broad term that's AI engineer, and this AI
Right.
engineer, we actually do everything. So we kind of start at the conceptualization phase. We look at, okay, what is the problem, what is the target requirements, we design the data collection infrastructure, collect the data, annotate it, train the models, and even go as far as like putting it out in the field and deploying in devices. And we carry out our own field testing. And actually, by owning the end-to-end, it kind of gives us a bit more control, and we can affect the different areas. So if something is not working at the end, we can go back and refine some of the input.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And Wilhelm, I know you're also from a startup background as well. So is that quite similar at Embeddle, or is it
It's
slightly
very
different?
similar, exactly like Sam and Miguel says, that from a startup perspective, these roles are very rarely cleanly separated. And I think Miguel made a great point that if you're able to bridge both this understanding of deep learning and models and the hardware that makes this model tick and actually be used in the real world, that's a very powerful combination. Another such powerful combination is if you're able to bridge this engineering and the sort of application and product facing side of things. That's also a very powerful combination. So like Sam says here at Embedded, we have deep learning engineer, and that can mean you work with deep learning and you do a lot of things on hardware. It can also mean that you have a very applied role where you map the customer needs. So not just, I'm going to train a model with the highest best bounding box detection, but more asking the question: is it bounding boxes we should detect in this instance, and what are and sort of this systems level thinking. And I think these emerging hybrids roles are very. I think it's very much emerging specifically in edge AI, and of course it gets amplified even further than if you're doing it in a startup.
And we see that both as startups and larger companies that our students join. Often the job titles don't change all that much, whether they're AI engineer or computer engineer, computer scientist. Sometimes we'll see, but the job description and talking to the people that are interviewing and hiring you are really where you start to understand exactly what you're doing in that role. So it's really important to really look at understand the company, talk to people, and understand the job description as it's written and ask questions about it.
Yeah, and I think if you look at bigger companies, then as opposed to startups, is where you kind of see the differentiation between the roles. In my case, at least we have two variants: the ML engineer, which is taking care of the algorithmic part, and with embedded/HAI engineers, which actually do the development. And then you see this type of small differentiation already. But one thing I wanted to add to the discussion is that we are talking about HAI, and the most important thing is here understanding of the hardware to some degree, right? Because what is interesting, at least what I experienced in the past, is that the ML engineers didn't have much of an empathy for the restrictions that you face in the HAI domain. So they say, I'm a senior ML engineer, I have a powerful GPU, but then it's up to you how you optimize this for the hardware. And this is super important when you talk about the roles in HAI, that this has to do a lot with the hardware understanding.
Yeah, and I think if you're applying for a role in Edge AI, that's a great way to stand out, especially if you're a newly graduate, showcasing that you have not just have a result of a model trained, but you can give an indication of thinking about these real world constraints. That's a very good way of standing out in the crowd, so to say.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you for that, everyone. I guess obviously, Miguel, you mentioned a little bit there about the various different skills that people may have. So, I guess how would you map someone's skills, and what roles would naturally suit someone better within the space?
Sure. So maybe coming back to what I said before, and these obviously are highly technical roles. Some people is more oriented towards the algorithmic development, and there is where you can, concentrate on the development of the models, the training, and so on. But what is different, and now because AI is becoming more and more important, is that you do it in a hardware-aware manner. Because in the past, as I said, as an algorithmic engineer, ML engineer, you didn't care, right? It was a second thought. It's not anymore. And it's not because we just have fun with HAI, and no, it's because HAI actually is what enables bringing those models to an actual product. That's why, right? So you in some cases, you cannot just put a huge NVIDIA GPU in your pocket. You really need to bring those models to the hardware. And that's why, I mean, you need to mix this algorithmic understanding with a little bit of hardware. But as you go down in the layers towards the hardware, then you have to be more and more aware of the hardware. Maybe, for example, in case of hardware design, you are great at hardware understanding, but you have very little skills towards algorithmic side of the thing. So then you go to the hardware. And in between, what I said is when you have a good hardware understanding, but also you have a good mix with the algorithmic development, and you can make the link. So this is how I see it, in the spectrum. But then you can go obviously beyond these technical roles into the product development, marketing, and all of that we can discuss later.
Great, thank you, Miguel. Does anyone else have sort of any other sort of ideas around that as well? Any other sort of suggestions?
I think so. As Miguel was talking about, it's really like you need to have a balance. It's the hardware understanding and understanding that you don't have infinite resources, but also in a lot of edge AI cases, power consumption is a factor. So even if you had a lot of resources, if you have a battery powered device and then the battery runs out in like 5 minutes, then the final user is going to be like quite frustrated. So it's understanding of that, understanding of like, okay, like the machine learning technology, and I also said it before, it's also kind of going beyond that. And in a lot of edge AI cases, it's really like there's a heavy reliance on sensors, because in the end, a lot of the edge AI applications is about looking on local sensors in different kinds of products and adding some intelligence and decision making on top of that, whether it's like a temperature sensor or a current sensor or a microphone or a camera. So having this kind of like wide understanding, and then of course you can have like specializations. You have your embedded engineers that know how to like do the integration. You have your like ML tools engineers that build up the machine learning infrastructure, and the optimization engineers and all of that. But it's good to have this broad overview, because what we've seen is kind of like being able to optimize at every single point is what gives you this powerful capability, and being able to run what would otherwise be super large models to run on very small devices.
Yeah, and I guess having that, large overview is almost a soft skill that people need to have, really. So I guess on that point, what sort of soft skills do you think you normally need to have, to be successful in this space?
I think, one of the best soft skills to have is working well with others. If you can show any level of project work, cross collaboration, especially if it's interdisciplinary, can be really helpful. Like had been touched on between different departments. Communication is also another one we see. Often we'll see listed leadership, which does not always mean that you're, the president of a volunteer organization, but really they're just looking for your ability to start something new on your own, or engage other folks, get people interested and on board with what you're doing. Soft skills are never bad.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I'd like to. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Sam. Go ahead, Sam.
I just want to say one more soft skill. I think it's curiosity. That's kind of the driving factor for like wanting to touch all of these different places. Because without that, I think a machine learning engineer is happy just building models. They could be like the most complex models, but wanting to be like, okay, what's beyond just the machine learning? Let me look at the hardware. Let me look at the sensors. I think that's a common trait that we probably see.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And obviously, Miguel, Sam, Wilhelm, obviously you all work in the edge AI space, in a technical capacity. I guess I'd like to ask each of you individually, how did you personally, decide your own fit? Tell us a little bit more about your journey into the positions you're in now. Wilhelm, why don't you start?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said in my introduction, I started very much from an engineering and research point of view. And what really brought me into product leadership was out of all the engineers, I was the one who was most, if anyone was excited about talking to customers and kind of bridging the world between product and research, it was me. So it kind of came. It was never an active decision that, oh, now I'm gonna do product leadership, and it wasn't like it didn't feel like a promotion either. It more felt like a natural progression. And speaking of soft skills, I think a very, very powerful soft skill in this case is the ability to communicate very technical concepts to non-technical stakeholders. And I in no way claim that I'm the best. I'm still learning, but honing that skill can be very, very beneficial for in this market.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
maybe to add to that, to start with the communication skills, I also want to support this idea and also to the idea to communicate to non-technical people, especially because this is an emerging area. I mean, it's getting more and more consolidated, and there is more people joining the journey of HAI, and they don't understand obviously all the technical details from day one, and you need to find the right way and the right words to explain what they need to know in order to start, either from a technical perspective or from a marketing or business perspective. What is HAI, what is the value, what we are doing, and why it's important, right? Now, regarding my journey, to the other question is, I'm coming from an embedded role engineer, so in terms of optimization, so that's why I'm more in between the algorithmic development and the hardware. And I think many embedded AI engineers or embedded engineers are coming to this HAI domain with this embedded hardware background and just putting the AI on top of that profile. So that was my case, right? So understanding the low-level hardware for many years, and how can you put on top of this skill set the AI topic, right?
Yeah, great. Thank you. And Sam, how about you? What was your journey like?
Yeah, so I actually started as an electrical engineer, so quite far away from the software. And it's a funny story. I just found this ad for for this company. They were looking for an embedded engineer to kind of deploy models. I joined because I did some embedded projects at uni. And then over time, kind of I developed further. So I was looking at the algorithms. I always say that I'm bad at like imagining things. So first thing I did was I just plotted all of the data that was going into the system, and then I found some like things that I could optimize. Went from there and kind of like expanded further, and that was like kind of my entry into kind of the more machine learning part with like training new models and things like that. And then I think similar to Wilhelm, I like talking to customers. I like to understand the problem and exactly like have a idea of like, okay, how do I want to solve this? So then from there, kind of going into a more like commercial role and then a leadership role, kind of driving the organization, but still kept this passion of like really working with applications. So I love to get customers' problems and figure out how we can solve it together.
Yeah, great. And Mary, I've got a question as well based on, the sort of advice you may give to students or graduates. What do you say to students or graduates that maybe aren't sure about, where they fit and where they're really good and what their niche might be? What sort of advice do you give them? Because I know it's quite a momentous time in someone's career, stepping out of education.
The first two principles to share with students are try things and talk to people. You might think that you like something having taken a course in it, and it's often quite different when you are doing it in the real world. So if you think you like something, find a way to do it. Through an internship or a co-op or through volunteering or even a personal project. The second, talk to people. Um, Folks like who are on this chat today, people who are alumni from your university, or people that you meet at events. It can be really helpful in kind of understanding in how to navigate any industry, whether it's EdgeAI or otherwise. And then last but not least, follow your interests. There aren't that many mistakes you can make in your career if you're following your interests. Many skills are uh, can be used in different ways. Like Sam mentioned, I doubt when he was leaving university, he was thinking about, oh, I'm going to be working in AI as an electrical engineer. So, follow your interests, try to stay true to your interests, and try to shut out any pressures from parents or friends or society about what you should do, because we spend a lot of time at work and you should be happy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it all aligns back to, the curiosity point, always stay curious, explore new things, and, you'll find your fit, you'll find your match, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, all right. Well, thanks a lot for all of those points, everyone. Is there anything else anyone would like to mention on that before we move on to the next part?
I would just like to reiterate on what Mary said. I think what it comes down to is you just have to take a chance. Like sometimes it can feel daunting to go into something new. Like when I went into the role, it's exactly like Mary said. I didn't imagine myself working with AI. It was actually my dream job, but I didn't think it existed because when I robotics was not a big thing, especially where I'm from, which is Australia. But then I found this ad randomly. I was like, oh, I didn't even know such a job existed. I just applied and got the position. So even though it feels daunting, I think you have to give it a shot. And then in the end, it's you can always change. Like people find out, okay, this is not the right career for me, or I would like to try a different track. And I think when you're growing up, you kind of get told it's like you have to pick something. But in the end, it's like you can always shift, and I think actually it's a good thing to shift careers, like because then you get different perspectives, and this combination of different perspectives is what like makes you unique and have a unique outlook and into what you do.
Yeah, and I want to also touch on the topic of curiosity that we have been mentioning a lot, because HAI is such a new area and is full of challenges. There are so many problems to solve that actually is a good thing, and especially if you really I'm looking forward to the innovation, because you first of all need to find those meaningful problems to solve in order to create some innovations. And for me personally, going into the HAI domain kind of validated my choice to do a PhD, because when you do a PhD, you want to do research, you want to kind of innovate. The PhD is all about learning how to innovate, and actually HI gave the opportunity to exercise that skill, which is obviously supported by the curiosity, right, or driven by curiosity.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for that. And I guess to move on to the next section, then, I think, generative AI is certainly grabbing the headlines at the moment. Whereas Edge AI is I guess the younger brother in the background currently. It's still growing. I guess generative AI is as well, but Edge AI certainly doesn't grab the headlines. It's not what everyone thinks of first outside of this industry when they think of AI. So what sort of industries and where are Edge AI opportunities and roles growing, would you say?
Maybe I could touch on that point though about generative AI, because we're seeing these very general purpose models emerging, and edge AI will have to adapt to this. We're seeing companies succeed, and it's a lot of hype, but companies succeed without having to develop AI models at all, right? And they're AI companies, and we're at a stage where the traditional machine learning role of building your custom PyTorch model and training it from scratch, it's not necessarily where the biggest growth will be. But I think this opens up a lot of new opportunities in edge AI, because someone needs to take these advancements in the models and actually build real applications and make them useful in practice. And here, exactly the kind of roles that Miguel and all the others panelists talked about creating these high impact products requires strong roles that does not just where you don't just know about the model, but you need to know about the data to adapt these models to specific edge AI use cases. And the hardware, as Miguel stressed, this is a very, very crucial part. And I think all this Gen AI hype, maybe ultimately it's a good thing for edge AI, because a lot of the impact will come from actually making products that we can interact with real time out in the real world.
Simon, Miguel, do you have any sort of comments on that as well?
Sure. I mean, definitely, when you say or you ask yourself what are the areas where HAI is growing, you need to see what actually HAI is about, because then you think, okay, this is how HAI is going to help this area, right? And HAI, is about bringing intelligence to the edge, and that means intelligence where the data is generated, intelligence when the users are located, right? So HAI systems are interacting with users and data. And in that regard, at least in my case, coming from an automotive company, we are bringing a lot of intelligence to the edge, understanding the surroundings of the car, understanding what is in the car, and also giving user experience. So smart in-vehicle experiences. And then the automotive domain, of course, there is a huge growth. And it's not only about the so-called autonomous driving, because everybody says if it's fully autonomous, then it's a success. If it's not fully autonomous, it's a failure. No, it's about step by step bringing this intelligence to the edge, and every step is a success, at least for the automotive. This is how I see it in my work. And then you obviously see other areas where you need this intelligence at the edge, like in robotics for, I don't know, retail areas, or more recently, obviously, the defense topic, which is gaining importance as well. So you need those intelligence systems driven by HAI.
Yeah, and across the spectrum, even we work with biomedical engineers who are starting to encounter needs for AI understanding in medical device development. And things like that. We have students today visiting Signify, which is a lighting company, and they're starting to incorporate AI into their lighting solutions. So, there's the question of where is it growing right now, which I think has been well answered. I think the question we'll be asking in a year or 2 or 3 is, where is it about to grow? Because the limits are I don't know if endless is the word, but they seem pretty endless right now where we're sitting.
So, yeah, well, from my experience, I think everybody here made very good points. Let me approach it from a different way. So, from my experience, it's also interesting to see how different sectors approach this change in technology. So, for me, it seems like the consumer market, where there's like not so much regulation and a high demand to kind of innovate and to compete. You get a lot of companies interested in kind of bringing out new features and new technology fast. And this is where Edge AI can kind of give you an edge, like, okay, I add a new feature that wasn't before possible. Now I'm better than the competition. I think for me, this also contrasts like with the industry, where we've seen actually like there's so much potential, but because in industrial application much more slower moving, there's a lot less risk taking. They would really like to see like have it validated, have it approved, and become mainstream before they would adopt it. I've seen cases where it's like you can show that you can save millions of dollars using Edge AI, but they are still reluctant. Whereas in the consumer, it's a lot more faster moving, and we're seeing it kind of like slowly being incorporated and added into different devices. And I think it's also like it's interesting to see how it kind of like it also combines with the sensor technology. So with its prevalent sensors, you also see like more adoption of Edge AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, just touching a very good point. Just briefly, one idea here is that there are several industries, right? And you have a lot of potential in multiple industries to apply HAI to bring intelligence to the edge. But certifications, compliances slow things down, and that's the case obviously as well in automotive. In automotive, yeah, we see a good development, but still, we have to do a lot of compliances, right, to make sure the HAI devices are safe, right? And same applies for other industries.
And I think for the automotive industry, Edge AI has, the automotive industry has been adopting this since the inception of deep learning. So it's been over a decade. And I think automotive is where I think you find some of the most competent computer vision teams, where the autonomous driving and ADAS stacks, they are very, very, big and complex compared to what you find in many, many other applications of Edge AI. So I would definitely highlight the automotive as such. In terms of growth, I think Mary made this great point that there are emerging industries like robotics is maybe the biggest hype now, and of course medical technology and such like that. But we may be sitting here a year from now and and we were going to be completely wrong. So I think one needs to be very, very careful making strong predictions or projections here. Yeah, and also I think defense is, like it or not, that's also very much exploding now. And here in Europe, we're seeing a lot of investment in AI in defense right now, and edge is crucial for many of those applications as well.
Great.
I'd just like to add to that, for me, how I see it, I definitely see that Edge AI will kind of explode in the upcoming future, and we could see a lot of applications where you could benefit from Edge AI. And I think we've kind of covered all the different sectors. It's definitely a thing, and as we get more and more maturity in hardware and in tooling, we're kind of bringing it up and priming it for kind of growing across all the different sectors.
Mm-hmm. And then to add to this, it's only gonna get more messy as well. Going back to this recurring point about the hardware and things being so complicated. You see a lot in the cloud. Nvidia, they're the biggest company in the world, and everyone is using Nvidia GPUs. But in Edge AI, it's a jungle. And the fact that so many emerging industries are coming up, that also means that there's a lot of opportunity for disruption. So Nvidia does not have the same dominance in a lot of these Edge AI sectors we're talking about, and like it or not, that adds a lot of complexity to and interesting problems to solve.
Yeah, and I'd like to follow up on what you said, Wilhelm, because it's a jungle, literally. So when somebody asks me about HAI, I say it's fully fragmented market. So everybody's doing things in so many different ways to be different from the competition, but also because there are no rules fully defined, standardized, and that's impacting, how the HAI is, being used in different industries. But if you want to go into HAI, you also need to kind of deal with this jungle and fragmentation of technologies, right? So you need to kind of try to learn the baseline and then build from there to go for a particular solution or the other one, because these solutions could be completely different, right? And this is something that you coming to the HAI domain need to be aware of. At least that's the situation today.
Great. And I guess on the point of the standardization of job titles and roles, do you think as the industry matures that will become the case, or do you think it's always going to be this hybrid embedded AI engineer or AI engineer, as Sam mentioned, in the industry, or do you think there will be more divergence as as the industry matures?
I think, even when we look at very mature industries, automotive, maybe, for example, right, with the manufacturing side, we don't see clear delineations across employers by job title. A mechanical engineer one at one company is not always the same as mechanical engineer one at another. So I'm pessimistic that anyone will really solve that problem. But the advice that I mentioned earlier of reading the job descriptions is going to stay true. It doesn't. We have companies in the U.S. that call their customer solutions people, their job title is ninjas. I don't think that's going to go away, but we're still going to need to be reading the job descriptions, understanding what are the responsibilities and what are the qualifications, and navigating from there.
Great, thank you. And I guess in terms of we've spoken about the skills, the roles, the industries where Edge AI is growing, but I guess if you've landed a role in the industry, you know for people that maybe are students, graduates, they haven't started working yet, what is that experience going to look like for them, just to give them a slightly better understanding from you guys that are there in the trenches now? Miguel, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, sure. So the experience that they might expect, yeah, as I said, I mean, it's an evolving area, right? So you also need to be prepared for dealing with sort of uncertainty at times, and also be prepared for embrace the change, right? Because this is evolving very quickly, right? And as I said, coming to the HI domain, there is no rules defined, right? How things are being done, and this is still changing. So that's why you need to be kind of perseverant and then try to ride the wave as HI evolves, I would say. But of course, bringing, let's say, some base understanding of the hardware, that would be helpful. Yeah.
Great. And Sam, Wilhelm, do you have any points from I guess a startup perspective as well?
Yeah. I can only add to what has already been said, that you should treat your career like a series of experiments. So find out what energizes you and where you can make the biggest difference, because that's where your career will grow fastest. And there's no rush in identifying this. You can you can go back and forth a bit. It's all good.
Yeah.
Great.
So, sorry. Did you want to?
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, Sam. Go ahead, Sam.
So yeah, I mean, just to add, like, I think when you first start off, it can be a bit daunting. You don't have experience from the industry. You're kind of getting thrown into a project, and I think just like kind of to point out some advice, is just a matter of breaking it down into small small tasks and working on it, and before you know it, you become an expert, and people or new graduates are coming to you for advice, and then you don't realize that you come to that point, but it's like you just slowly get better and better and improve, and then there's a lot of, I mean, when we're dealing with the software programming, it's like there's going to be a lot of bugs, there's going to be a lot of problems that's like you just can't solve, and sometimes honestly it's just like, okay, I can't solve this, I just need to kind of like do something else and then come back to it, and then suddenly you realize, okay, now I have the solution.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And perhaps this is a uniquely American perspective, but to an extent, your career is what you make it. If you just sit back and do only the things you're told, your career will be different than if you grab a seat at the table and try to innovate new things. If there isn't a seat at the table, find a seat, bring it to the table. There are lots of ways to grow in your career.
Great, thank you.
I would say don't wait for permission. Just go ahead and build something. Do it. There is a lot that is not yet defined, so a lot of room to build your career within HAI, right? It's an evolving area. So I mean, there are a lot of resources that you can just get into HAI and just start building something, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we're about to move on to the question and answer section now. But I guess before we move on to that section, I just wanted to ask, each of you individually, if there was one key message that you were going to give to either a student or a graduate, or even someone midway through their career, about entering into a technical role or the edge AI space, more specifically, what advice would you give them? What would be the one message you want them to leave with after this live stream? So how about Sam, we start with you?
Yeah, so I can answer it in two ways. If you kind of are already in like an adjacent field, like if you're already a machine learning engineer, you're working with machine learning in the cloud, I would say just go for it. Just if you find a job that you like in a position that seems interesting, and I would say all of the engineers in my team, like they started out as just general machine learning engineers, not having to do with the edge, but then you learn on the job and you develop that skill. um, for new graduates, what I would say is kind of like you're in a tricky situation because you haven't built up like this experience, you don't have the CV. So I would say like the best thing to do is like look at what your hobbies are and try to form a project around that, and then just do that, and that would be kind of like the demo of your skills. And I think in the end, the people who are interviewing you are people. So if you show them something cool, they will be interested and they'll be like, I want to have that person on my team.
Great, thank you. And Wilhelm, what would be your one message for people to take away?
Yeah, and this is going to be from the startup perspective. We talked a lot about Edge AI. Edge AI is this jungle of opportunities. And when you're looking for opportunities in a startup, the role is one thing, but make sure that you find a company and a team where you can explore this opportunity, and it's not just one role you're looking for. You're setting yourself up for success if you're able to take on different tasks, treat this career as a series of experiments, and like I said, where you make the biggest difference is where your career will grow fastest.
Great, thank you. And Mary, how about from your perspective?
Of a similar theme to Sam's, follow your interests. You never know where it'll take you, and especially for young people, it's just so much easier to take risks when you're younger, when you don't have a family or a mortgage or all of these things tying you down. And so consider that a unique opportunity.
Yeah. And Miguel, finally.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, as we have been discussing, HAI is still evolving, and there are roles or areas. I mean, it's multidisciplinary, right? So there is opportunity and space for everyone, right? Problems for everyone, right? And if you follow your interest and passion, you will find something to do in the area of HAI. I want to touch on what Sam said. On the one hand, you have existing professionals with previous experience. So there are many ways to get into HAI to complement your skills with the skills required in HAI. That was my case, right, 6 years ago from embedded. But also for the students, yeah, go ahead and build something, show it off. There are many ways, hackathons, GitHub projects, etc. And this allows you to build some profile. But one thing I want to close the message is, yeah, HI is a lot about hardware. So no matter what you do, in the end, you have to do a lot with the hardware. So you need to be hardware aware. Yeah, that would be my message.
Great, thank you, everyone. Unless anyone has any other closing points they'd like to add, we'll move on to the Q&A. So is there anything else before we move on? No? All good, great. Well, let's move on to the audience Q&A then.
Oh, this is an interesting question.
It is, yeah. Yeah, thank you for the question, Phil. That's a great question. Any advice in terms of that area?
I'm not going to sit here and say be more American, but it might be helpful to take a look at American resumes. There it may be uncomfortable, especially for people of other cultures, but describe what you did and describe what you did. So always, on your resume or CV, focus on your unique contributions. And some of those are going to be inherently soft skills. It's hard to think of a project where there wasn't a level of technical communication, where there wasn't collaboration with another person, where there wasn't a need to solve a problem. And I would describe those all as soft skills. So yeah, my take would be, focus on your unique contributions, and you're probably going to hit them. That might not be the case for everyone.
Great, thank you. And
I'd like to add one thing. Sometimes you also can find unique ways of demonstrating soft skills that just require a bit of thinking outside the box. So, for example, we had like a technical test, and some of the candidates chose to put together a video where they presented their solution and they talked about it rather than just submitting like a Python script. So that's a way where you can demonstrate some soft skills that you just kind of put it out there, that might be like beyond what the recruiters are asking for.
Yeah, and I think in terms of soft skills, of course, communication is the prime soft skill, but still, I want to touch on that because I got an advice actually from a German professor from old school that says that he told me, Miguel, you can build an amazing system or an amazing technical masterpiece, but if you are not able to explain it to others, it's like if you did nothing. And I that touched me a lot, and I said, next time I have to see not only how to build this also my innovation, but also how to explain it to people. And this creates credibility. This shows what you can do, right? And the value you can bring to the table. Not just like the work is speaking by itself, but you can also explain it in easy words.
great, thank you. Okay, who would like to start off with this one then?
Yeah, I think this is coming back to what we have been discussing
I
on
know
the
what you're
hardware. I
gonna
mean, I
say.
cannot not avoid it, right? You need to understand what is different between cloud and edge, right? So actually there is a big shift between cloud to edge. So, what is the difference, right? So the difference is the resource constraints, right? The compute power. And whatever you were doing in the cloud, maybe you need to make it smaller or optimize it in a way that fits into the AGI restrictions. I think that's the main thing.
Maybe to put it a bit more concrete, since you put Python and PyTorch here in the text, it doesn't need to be like a super exotic accelerator. And this jungle that we are talking about in industry, that it doesn't need to be that high of a cliff, so to speak, to get started. There are Raspberry Pis you can buy. You can do things on your phone these days. There's a lot of open source frameworks, ONNX runtime, TF Lite. So you can very quickly go from PyTorch to having some first model running on a device. And I would just say that you shouldn't be intimidated. It's quite easy to get started, and the main pain points comes from making the product and making it safe, etc. So feel free to explore, and there's so many good tools out there.
Yeah, you're totally right. You don't need to jump. Sorry, go ahead, Sam.
No, go ahead, Mikael.
Just wanted to say, I fully agree with William. You don't have to jump into the most complicated accelerator. You can just do a step by step, and with this you realize of the differences and you start learning them and embracing them.
Yeah, I
So
just wanted to say, like, just it feels like you've already done like a lot of the work. Just take it to the next step. Just grab like a dev kit, whether it's a Raspberry Pi or something like that. Just practice taking the model from the Python environment, running it on an edge device.
I have an answer for this question.
Go ahead, Mary.
First, see what resources are available to you. Many universities, like Boston University, have mentorship programs. Some professional societies have mentorship programs. If you can join a program, that would be a great way to go about it. They'll have some level of matching consideration and can help you find someone whose interests are similar to yours. If you have a very specific idea of what you want to learn, that can be helpful. But mentorship is a funny thing. It's really dependent on chemistry and interests and your mutual compatibility. And so it's not always that you just find a mentor. And you may have many mentors, and it may take you a while to find a mentor. So a good way to start, if you don't have a mentorship program available to you, just to start talking to people and continue talking to them. Not in an annoying way, but always ask questions that are actually interesting to you, not the ones you think that they want to hear. And that's the best way to feel out if someone is going to be a good match for mentorship.
And I want to add that it works, not just from personal experience. That several of my colleagues joined by reaching out either directly to a person working here or connecting at events. So networking it's good and it works. So you just have to get out there.
yeah, and sometimes even within your own organization, you find these mentors. I also experienced that specifically in my organization because the HAI became a thing and more people wants to come to that. And some of us, we have a few experience in this area. So, actually we organize regular meetings to talk about HAI and how things are evolving and resources to learn. So maybe this mentor is closer to you than you think. Okay.
Quite a
This is
technical question there for you.
highly technical. And it could be a point of debate even, right? Because there is not a single answer to this. This is more like, I guess, the debate between classical algorithms and AI algorithms, right? What is better? I think it depends on the use case, right? And the problem you want to solve from an algorithmic perspective. AI has been showing superiority to solve some problems. And frankly speaking, as we move and the HAI is evolving, you have way more efficient ways to deploy AI algorithms to the edge. So maybe some classical algorithm could be even match in terms of compute and energy and memory.
So yeah, just to reiterate on what Miguel said, it really depends on the use case, and I think what I tell customers is if you can solve it using classical methods or just a traditional algorithm, then just do that, because then you don't need to overcomplicate the problem. But if you're finding that you're not getting the performance that you need, there's too many false positives, or you have problems with edge cases, and you need something more intelligent, then that's when you should start to look at like deep learning and proper machine learning.
Anyway, when you see practical systems, it's a combination of both in the end, right? So it's not that you do everything with one strategy; it's a mix, a blend. You blend both technologies or strategies.
Yeah, and in the end, it's just a tool for solving a problem.
Yeah.
Who'd like to tackle this one first?
The advice I often give to students asking this type of question is choose the ones you're most interested in. Those are the ones you're going to have the best applications for. You're going to interview the best for, because you're interested in them. Like it's really hard to fake interest. So find something that interests you and go to that first. And you might choose 2 or 3 to start with, and that's a good starting place.
Yeah, and maybe an industry that allows you to get exposed to a variety of technologies so that you can learn, right, and expand your skills in HAI. And this kind of connected to what Wilhelm said, like in the startup domain, you have to do a lot of stuff by yourself. You are not just focused on one single thing. And then the same applies for industries, right? So maybe you have an industry where you are exposed to the whole chain of technologies that you need to use in HAI.
I don't know that we'll know for a while. A good example of this is people have been saying we're saturated with MBAs, Master of Business, for since I was in college, so at least 20 years. So and people are still getting MBAs and being very very successful with MBAs. If we're continuing to use that as the example, specialized MBAs are more valuable than general MBAs generally right now. And so it can be helpful to specialize rather than generalize sometimes. But if you're really generally interested, that's okay too.
Great, thank you. Well, unless there's anything else to add to that question, I think we're just about at time, and that's all we've got time for today. So, look, thanks again for watching. The recording will be available on the Edge AI YouTube page, and if you're eager for more, you can also check out the Edge AI Foundation website for upcoming events and talks. If you scan the QR code at the end of the live stream, you can have your say on shaping the next one. And yeah, thanks again to all of the speakers for joining. Really appreciate all your advice and your time. And thanks for the questions. I hope you all have a great end to the week, and we'll see you soon. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.